Good morning, everyone. This is Jen Espinosa-Goswami over at Weightless. My Facebook page is the letter B, Weightless, and thank you for joining me this morning on how to master your motivation. I posted this particular stream in a couple different places, so I'm really excited that you can join me this morning. And I do want to talk briefly about Facebook challenges, those health challenges that spring up, it seems every day, every week, whatever. Typically these challenges are 7 days long, 14 days long. Some of them get as long as 30 days. And I have nothing against challenge groups necessarily, but the type of women that I try to serve are women who have at least 30 pounds that they need to lose, or have a very challenging habit of theirs that they have been maintaining for decades, maybe even longer than that. And these challenge groups are pretty much useless for the majority of those types of issues. So let's talk a little bit about what these challenge groups are good for and what they're not good for, and how to really master your motivation and get that stick to it feeling that most of us seem to lose after 30 days or 60 days. All right, so let's talk about Facebook challenges. For one thing, Facebook does not care whether you reach your goal or not. People who lead these challenge groups, of course, care, because they wouldn't do the groups if they didn't care. But they are, most of them are already fit people. They are using it for their own maintenance and to kind of excite you and engage you within something that you can both agree upon. So it's great to be interested in joining a challenge because you're like, oh, this is fun and this is focused. And sure, I can do anything for 7 days. Who can't do anything for 7 days? But challenges are set up for failure. For one thing, when you join a challenge, it's usually very, very specific. For example, there's the squat challenge. There's the meal planning challenge. There's the salad challenge. There's the juicing challenge. You know, all of them are very specific and deal on a very particular type of tactic. And you may understand that that's why these failed for you in the past, because you can get some level of comfort with a juice challenge in 7 days, but that doesn't mean you're going to completely turn around your entire life and ditch everything that you've been doing thus far so that you can keep up this challenge. Once the challenge is over, how motivated are you? Do you feel like that was life-altering and that you are going to stick to it now that you have no one to check in with, no one to report to? Another thing that these challenges tend to fail for most of us is, so what happens when you have a bad day, right? When you don't do what the challenge is asking you to do, when you're looking at all these other posts from folks who are doing awesome, they're totally killing it, and you had a day where you barely got out of bed and you feel horrible and you didn't do what the challenge asked you to do, and you have no interest in doing what the challenge asked you to do, and you're only on day 4. What do? You don't post anything, right? You don't share your failure, because sharing failure feels horrible, right? It feels like, oh, everyone's going to judge me. Everyone's going to think this about me. Everyone's going to think that. That's one way in which social communities can kind of shoot you in the foot. The more public you are with what your goals are, and the more public you are with what your intentions are, the more people might be like, oh, so how's that going? Or, oh, I thought you were going to do this. So, you know, you do set yourself up for putting your motivation outside of yourself instead of putting your motivation from within yourself. So that's reason number 2 that I don't like Facebook challenges. 1, they're supremely focused on one particular thing, which will not completely overhaul your entire life and the habits that got you where you are today. And 2, the challenges, if you're having a really bad day and that happens to be day 2 or day 3, you're just not going to post anything about what you did. And it's kind of an avalanche effect, right? When you have one day that goes bad, maybe the next day doesn't go as good as you wanted, and then the day after, and then the challenge is over. And what have you learned at the end of that 7 days? You've learned that some people did really good with what the challenge was asking. You've learned that maybe you lost motivation for one reason or another. And you've learned too that, oh, there's another challenge popping up. I'll just jump into that challenge. That's another reason I don't care for these short-term challenges, is because there's always another one, right? It kind of induces your fear of missing out, your FOMO, where you're like, well, I didn't do so good on this one, but I'm just going to hop into this next challenge. And the problem with that is these challenges are not necessarily hosted by the same person. They might have a different focus. They might have a different product that they're tied to. They might have a different type of program that they're tied to. So there's nothing consistent between challenge and challenge. And so you keep searching, right? You keep searching for the next thing. You keep searching for the perfect thing. There is no perfect thing. There's no perfect thing. So when it comes to these challenges, don't shoot yourself in the foot and say, I'm going to focus on doing squats for 7 days or juicing for 7 days, because those 7 days are not going to completely change your life. You're not going to transform yourself in 7 days. The other thing, the second thing that we talked about was these challenges. If you're having a bad day, you just don't post and you don't participate and you don't engage, and so you're not getting anything out of it. It's not giving you what you're looking for. And then finally, these challenges encourage you to just jump into the next shiny new thing, into the next challenge, into the next whatever. And you keep jumping from one thing to another, and you're not seeing the results you're looking for. The biggest problem that most of my health coaching clients say they have when I work with them is motivation. Zig Ziglar said, well, we know that motivation doesn't last. They say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we do it every day. How can you learn to bathe every day in motivation? What does that look like? I'm someone who was able to lose 100 pounds and keep it off for about 15 years now. So I'm not saying that I'm a master of motivation, but I am saying that when it takes you a year to lose weight, and some of that time includes a lot of plateaus and things that throw you off your game, so to speak, especially when you're doing it on your own. I did it completely on my own. I didn't have a support group. I didn't have an accountability group. I didn't have anything. And you certainly can lose weight on your own. There's up to 40% of people who have maintained a weight loss of at least 30 pounds were able to lose the weight on their own. 40%. You don't need an accountability group. What you do need is to tap into your motivation within you and make that motivation work for you. So how do you do that? Why is it important to you? You need to connect with why it's important to you. Why should you live a healthier lifestyle today? Why do you feel dissatisfied with where you are? Are you uncomfortable? Are your clothes not fitting you anymore? What is it that keeps you up at night? What are you struggling with? Once you've identified very clearly what your biggest struggle is, settle on one action, just one action. And work on that action until you have conquered it. Now, this is an action that you should determine, or you should determine with the help of a health coach or someone who can help you get a better perspective on what your particular challenges are or your patterns are. But always focus on one thing at a time and rely upon yourself, your own gut feeling as to what that might be. For example, when I was losing weight, I didn't go about saying I'm going to lose 100 pounds in 1 year. Instead, I said, I want to live a long and healthy life, and I want to have children someday, and I want to have grandchildren someday, and I want to be a role model to those grandchildren. That was my why. That was my reason. That was my aha and trigger moment. And what I decided to do then was start completely with the basics. I was eating so much food, but I didn't even realize how much food I was eating. So the basics for me was to write down what I was eating so that I was aware of what I was even doing. I had to understand what patterns I had fallen into before I could change those patterns, right? You can apply this to your own life as well. So you may not be aware of what your patterns are because most of our habits, our daily habits, are unconscious. They're pathways in our brain. There's something that we do without even thinking. It's like when you're driving your car to and from places that you go to all the time. Sometimes you don't even remember doing it, right? Because you just unconsciously do it. You're so much in the habit of doing it. Our eating patterns are the same way. We do them without thinking. And the only way you can start thinking about it is to become aware of what it is you're doing. So, mastering your motivation. Connect very deeply on your particular why. Why is it important to you? What keeps you up at night? And that is your motivation. If you're flagging, if you're unsure, I would love to help you. I offer a complimentary weight loss breakthrough session. And in this session, we take a look at your patterns, your experiences in the past, where you want to go, and we bridge the gap between those two. This is what I did when I was trying to lose 100 pounds. Like I said, I didn't try to do it all at once. I was not a master of motivation, but I decided that this is why it was important to me. And the first thing I was going to do, and the only thing until I mastered it, was to write down everything I ate. It took me a month, 30 days of writing everything I ate. But over that time, I learned what my patterns were. I learned what worked and what didn't. I also learned the value of food labels and what it was I was actually eating. Oftentimes we sneak bites here and there without even realizing what we're doing, and I was certainly no exception to that. So I would love to set up a call with you completely free of charge. It's just my gift to you, but we can look a little bit about what your day looks like, what your meals look like, and then figure out what are your particular patterns and connect those with your why and find out the very next step for you. You don't need to jump into a challenge. You don't need to rely upon someone else to tell you what to do. You know what you need to do. Let's get clear on those very next steps so that we can maximize the time you have and maximize the effort you're putting into it so that you don't feel frustrated and you develop lifestyle habits instead of just temporary, let's see how this works kind of habits. All right, thank you for joining me here over at Be Weightless. Like my page if you haven't already. Make sure to pop your comments within this feed here. This video will be on my page all day long. I'd love to hear your comments. Also, I will be doing another Facebook Live this Friday, probably around noon. So go ahead and pop your comments in here about what you would like me to talk about this Friday at noon Central Time, and I'd be happy to talk about whatever it is you're struggling with today. In the meanwhile, I'll pop the link to schedule a free complimentary weight loss breakthrough call with me so that we can talk about your habits and find a way for you to master your motivation today. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.